DraftSociety.com presents a Premier League Draft Fantasy Podcast. Welcome to the Key Pass Collective. Your exclusive source for the information, analysis, and advice you need to dominate your fantasy leagues. Come on in. We've been expecting you.
Draft heads, what is going on? Welcome back to the Key Pass Collective. We are on a World Cup break. So you thought that the draft material, the draft analysis was going to stop? No, absolutely not. Here at the Key Pass Collective, we go right on through. So we're back. We're going to talk some draft. We're going to talk some Premier League. I hope you're not in full break mode yet. But reminder, who am I? My name is Joe Williams. I'll be your host for this episode. And who is the Key Pass Collective? We are, of course, the audio companion to the Draft Society website. Draft Society is the audio companion. Nope. No. The Draft Society is the written electronic companion to this podcast, where you can find your ranks, your stats, your articles, everything else that you need to dominate the draft game. It appears my brain is actually already on World Cup break as well, but that's fine. So anyway, check out the Draft Society. We're pretty proud of it. It's an amazing site. And yeah, it's an independent fantasy site. So give us some support, give us some love. Okay. One thing I want to shout out before we jump into the actual pod is the World Cup, because I know it's the World Cup that never should have happened. But, let's be honest, most of us are still going to watch it anyway. So if you want to have a little bit of fantasy footy in your life and you want to, play a game that still uses very similar, basically the same scoring to Fantrax/Taga scoring, well, we actually have, through the Draft Society and the amazing ingenuity of Colin Greaves, who is a wizard, we have a perfect 11 game that will be running through the World Cup, and that is through the Draft Society. Check out our Twitter at draft_society. You can sign up for our World Cup perfect 11. Basically, you're picking which players you want to start every single round, meaning, every single game of the group stage and then every single game of the knockout stage. You're going to pick your players. No restrictions, except for you have to field a full 11. You can pick whoever you like. Your goal is just to pick the ones that are going to score the best. So you're going to have to look at matchups. You're going to have to look at which players are in form. All these things. It's going to be an absolute blast. And even better, the Draft Society is going to be rewarding the winner with a 2022 FIFA World Cup kit of their choice. So join it up. It's totally free. Check out our Twitter. You can just fill out the Google form to basically join, and that will be shared with you. Everything will be done within one giant, basically Excel spreadsheet. Again, Colin's a wizard. It's amazing. Check it out. It's awesome. Can't say enough about it. Okay, we're going to get into it. This show, the first thing we're going to do is talk about what's happening over in Brentford, which is quite unfortunate. But then after that, we're going to have a segment we call the Fantasy Podium. 3 players of similar fantasy value, or you could say perceived value, and we are going to rank them rest of season and discuss why. Speaking of rankings, it's actually pretty apt that we have Robbie on the show today, because Robbie, you produce our rest of season weekly rankings for the Inner Circle members, and you do a lot of other stuff behind the scenes. I just feel like you're not front and center enough. We need to hear from you more. But how are you? Tell us how you've been since we've heard your lovely voice last.
I'm good, Joe. I'm good. Yeah, it's been a while, hasn't it? Have I not been on one since the pre-season pod? I can't even remember now.
Yeah, I don't keep track.
It's been a bit of a blur. Yeah, it's been a bit of a blur this first 16 game weeks of the season. Like more of a sprint than anything else, isn't it? Yeah, I don't know. I've not been up to much. I'm just sort of looking forward to the World Cup coming up, and trying to just saying before we started recording. I'm going to try and get the Monday afternoon off work so I can watch the England-Iran game with a buddy who's also off work. So get some beers down me. All good.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
But yeah, so hopefully my weekly rankings will help me with this one. I actually did quite I went through it in a bit more detail than or tried to go through in a bit more detail with all the injury issues and things like that might come up in terms of who will be back after the World Cup and things like that. So obviously we'll have more details nearer the time when we drop the consensus ranks. But hopefully at the moment it's a reasonable reflection of where we are. Yeah,
it is a tough one. Absolutely. And yeah, like you said, there definitely will be injuries. There will be players who have, been in form, players who've been, I don't know, haven't started a minute for their national teams. So it'll be interesting to see what coaches or what managers make of the developments during the World Cup. But yeah, interesting. Well, speaking of somebody who's recently traveled internationally, much like many of these players, see, that's great, pretty awesome segue. You got to hand it to me. Ryan, welcome back and congratulations, my friend.
Thanks, man. Thanks. Yeah, got married last week. It was incredible. My now wife deserves a ton of credit for putting together the wedding of the century. I'm not saying that just because it was my wedding. That was fantastic. She delivered a cultural experience. Everybody had a great time. Went past 3 a.m.
Oh wow!
Suffice it to say, I'm now sick because of it. So it shows you how much of a good time that we had. But yeah, back stateside, and I'm gonna push through.
Beautiful. Yeah. Well, we appreciate it, man. You got to be tired, and like you said, you're not feeling well, so. Yeah. And then also Robbie's up at, 11, almost midnight. So yeah, this might be a shorter one, but we're going to put in the hard work for you folks, listeners. We love you guys. All right, boys, let's get to it then. So this week we've got what probably will end up being a pretty big blow to Brentford. Unfortunately, you've got Ivan Toney, who, gambled just a couple of times, and by a couple, of course, I mean like 230. So a lot of people are drawing parallels to Kieran Trippier when this happened to him, and it was far fewer games, and he missed 10 matches because of it. So let's start with just the blowback for Toney and what you guys think might happen there. Does anybody want to kick it off with any thoughts on that? We don't need to hypothesize. What the hell do we know? But I mean, just if anybody's seen any official sources or people closer to the game who might have some thoughts on this.
Well, the Trippier one was, correct me if I'm wrong, it was he told a couple of his buddies that he was transferring to Atletico Madrid, and to wink, put a bet on that happening as opposed to betting on actual games, right?
Right.
Yeah. So that might be a slightly different case. I think the one case that at least I've seen folks comparing it to was Joey Barton, who I think bet on 600,000 times more games, which is quite impressive to be honest. And I think he got 18 months. So my guess is at minimum rest of the season, and possibly quite a bit more, maybe next season as well. I'd imagine there's a bit of leniency. So I'm guessing maybe a full season starts from now, and then he comes back mid-season next season.
Wow.
That would be my guess, just straight out of thin air, without much intel. But yeah, I mean, if you're rostering him, you just got to hold until you hear more info. I think he's got a chance to do an appeal right now. So yeah, let's see if he's got any mitigating circumstances that could get him out of this. But
good luck, lad.
Yeah,
I guess
I doubt it.
Yeah, I don't know how long an appeal process would go on for, but I mean, the World Cup hasn't come at a good time for it, really, has it? So
exactly.
They timed it. They timed it well. Yeah, and they got to beat City beforehand to put us on top. So I'm grateful to the FA.
Go out with a bang, eh? Yeah, I mean, it's a shame, isn't it? I mean, yeah, I mean, rest of season feels like a sort of, a minimum, really, doesn't it? But yeah, we'll see.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I that's what I'd been hearing. I wasn't sure if you guys had seen some sources or anything that's kind of like confirming that. I know nobody really knows at the moment, but still, rest of season is brutal. You're not going to be able to trade him. I mean,
yeah, I mean, I saw one person on our Inner Circle Discord channel had traded Toney out for Martial. So, I mean, that's about as much as you're going to get, I think.
Do that in a heartbeat.
I mean, any living body
Who
that's
starts
in the
and
Fantrax settings. I'd love to hear the rationale for the person who brought in Toney. I mean, it's just like betting on a miracle happening.
Right.
Just was going to drop Martial anyways, but
yeah,
man, it would take a legit miracle.
Yeah, I think maybe it was like a 10 team or something. And you might have just picked him up. I don't know. But yeah.
I mean, my concern, and as far as rest of season rankings go, Robbie, I mean, my concern is that this hurts basically every Brentford asset.
Yeah. It's an interesting one because I remember a while back when Toney was suspended, or actually it wasn't too long ago, was it, against Forest? And I was quite high on Mbumo, just purely because he's going to be up top now and he's going to be on pens, which just gives him a bit more. He's probably going to, get some better chances. And whether they'll be able to generate the chances without Toney there is a different question. But against Forest, it seemed like a good bet. But obviously that worked out in the end because he got the pen and actually did ghost a bit. But I think with, rest of season against tougher teams, it's, maybe a more difficult sell really that he's going to improve that much, if you will. But I think certainly he would be one that I would maybe give an uptick to. But the rest, you're right. I mean, if they're not going to feed him, then who are they going to feed?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh man, it seems pretty rough to me in terms of. I mean, just first of all, just in terms of, I mean, being a Brentford fan. Any supporter, I feel for you. I know it's an idiotic thing to have done, but at the same time, it just feels like it's punishing the whole club at this point. And you just lost Eriksen. I mean, it's just a rough time.
Yeah, but I mean, they've always got Damsgaard, right, Ryan?
God, I thought he was dead to all of us, but he's popping back up again, isn't he?
He apparently is. Yeah.
We'll get to see him in the World Cup anyway,
right? Right. I mean, okay.
Play himself into fitness.
This is the only player I'm even slightly curious about, and I feel like I don't know. I just feel like I'm like, it's like when you like lay in back of a truck or something and you just allow them to like reverse over you and then like drive forward again and run you over a second time. Like I've already been there with the Damsgaard thing and I just don't know if I want to do it again.
Yeah, I'm not doing it again. I mean, who's he gonna feed? Like we said, that like Jensen, possibly Damsgaard role of feeding Toney. It depends on Toney being there to get his head on, all of these crosses and whatnot. And without that, you're just basically depending on Damsgaard to, one, be fit, and two, start and actually create something. But again, Toney would have lifted all ships, and now he does the opposite with it being out. So yeah, Brentford are in trouble.
What about I think Joe, you were quite high on Lewis Potter preseason, right?
Yeah, preseason I sure was. Yep, and that's not really.
You never know.
Damsgaard's little brother.
Not really a thing anymore. So far KLP has all of the hallmarks of like a Dan James, where he's like a speedy winger. You watch him play and he seems to have something there about him, but it doesn't translate into fantasy points and usually into really any sort of attacking returns at all.
I mean, surely they buy somebody in January. I mean, this does also happen at a opportune time for Brentford in that sense that they don't have to play another game without him, and before they get a chance to hit the test the market and buy somebody else to replace him. So
yeah,
that could be exciting. The new signing that they bring in to replace him, but yeah, you're not going to be able to fully replace him.
Yeah, interesting. All right. Any other thoughts on Brentford before we move on? All right.
Really.
We'll get to some happier fodder here. Okay. We're going to jump into what I'm calling the Fantasy Podium. I didn't spend too long thinking of that name. I could probably come up with something better for next time, but it's fine.
It's pretty good.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So we have 3 players, similar fantasy value, either real or perceived fantasy value. And we're going to rank them rest of season. So based upon whether or not we'd want to roster them, you could even, if you're basing it on rest of season points, sure. Rest of season, how valuable they might be to your fantasy team, sure. Just rest of season, how do we value these players? 1, 2, 3. So we're going to try to focus on players who, have similar values and who are like sort of, they could go either way really. And they might be kind of a toss up. So maybe some to try to deal for over the World Cup break if your league has not kind of like locked its rosters, or some to just think about as you sort of mull things over this break in the action. So let's start at the forward position. Darwin Nunez, Wilfred Zaha, and Mitrovic. Nunez, Zaha, Mitrovic. Rest of season, how do you like them, Robbie?
I mean, I think you have to take Mitro up top there, but it's a wait and see, how he comes out of the World Cup really, because he's basically been killing himself for Serbia during the international breaks before. So with the ankle injury that he keeps sort of we missed the last couple of games about. So I still take him above, I think, but Nunez is. I mean, I think Jota's meant to be out for quite a bit longer, isn't he? In terms of after the World Cup. So
I think so. Yeah.
I think he's got a pretty, I mean, Diaz will be back, so that will change up the dynamic from what we've seen recently. But he's just been like ridiculous the last few games. So I think his form in terms of points for start is like 19. So it's just like, crazy numbers really. And Zaha, I mean, after the next couple of games, I think they've got, was it Bournemouth and Fulham? After that, I don't want to know. Although he'll probably turn up against the harder teams anyway, as he does. But,
right.
Yeah, so I think Mitro, Nunez, and then Zaha for me. But the Nunez one's an interesting situation because he could be like, his ceiling is so high if he gets the game time.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's why I included him in this one, because I just he is the question mark in this set, I feel like, because he has been so on it recently, and it feels like he's finally adapted to the Premier League. I mean, he's really just been so lively in the matches that he's played recently, and when you watch him, you just feel like he's finally starting to get it. So I kind of wonder if there's any chance he could keep this up. I mean, he's already at a 13.1 mean points per start. So Mitrovic being almost 15, that's still a decent gap. But if Nunez could keep up any sort of glimmer of what he's doing now, he could easily surpass that.
Yeah, and don't forget that 13.1 points per start includes, a game where he got a red card and he's only started 7 games. So
oh sure, yeah,
So I mean, going off his expected points per night, he's like 19. If you take that red card out, and which is just it's crazy numbers. It's up there with KDB and that. So potential's there, but it's still a big risk taking him over Mitro, who is just going to bosh out like every game. He's going to be there, and he's been scoring for fun. So yeah. But yeah, Zaha definitely a lowly third for me.
Yeah, he's been rough to roster lately. But yeah, we can talk about Zaha in a minute if you want. But Ryan, what's your order on these guys?
I kind of agree with Robbie. I think you could make the argument that given the uncertainty with Mitro's injury, I mean, missed a couple games going into the World Cup, going to have a rough World Cup that's not going to get any better. So today, I think you could make an argument that Núñez is above Mitro if you think that he's just going to go from strength to strength. I mean, he's obviously with Uruguay in the World Cup as well, but seems fit and firing. So if both tip top healthy, I mean, you got to give the edge to Mitro, given that he's proved that he can do it. But if you were incorporating the injury concerns today, I mean, you could make an argument for Núñez number one, but long wind up into I think I'm going to go the same as Robbie. Mitro, Núñez, Wilf, man, he's such an interesting one. And I'm going to group, I think, Wilf and Anderson together. You think that, they're doing actually pretty well early season with this crazy schedule. So when they start playing some easier teams and poorer opposition, that they're just going to get even better. But they all got worse.
Yeah, they did. They sure
bar Eze. So it's like, I want to play Wilf against, Liverpool, not Brentford or Forest. It's like they're a weird bunch. So yeah, it's really hard to value Zaha at the moment because he's such a live wire. But yeah, if you offer, I have Zaha in one league. If you offer me Núñez, I would take it in a heartbeat.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yep.
So Toddy's favorite, Robbie, Toddy's favorite metric, quality starts, care of overthinking football. Zaha, quality starts, 46%. So those are starts where he performs better than, is it the 50th percentile?
How many are Q90?
Q90? Oh God, 0.
Oh, great.
Put in shifts.
Q90 listeners means starts where he's performed better than 90% of the competition in that week.
Yeah, I don't know. My thinking was that the times where he did do well, he did really well, and then the rest of the time it's been sort of a bust, but clearly not.
No, he hasn't had many of those like 30-point games that he had at the latter part of last season, which is what I was kind of banking on. I can do with the middling couple points with dispossessions, but as long as he counteracts it with some 30-pointers, and he does just have been lacking.
Yeah. So Mitrovic on the other hand, 90% quality starts. So 90% of the time he's performing in the upper half of all forwards. 5 of those have been Q90. So better than 90% of the other forwards. As far as Núñez is concerned, 71% quality start, and 2 of those have been Q75, where he's better than 75%, and 1 has been Q90.
I'll take that.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think Zaha's the clear loser here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, we're about to talk about another Palace asset here. Unless you guys want to pause and talk about anything else with those 3 players.
No, I'm all good.
Good to go?
Good.
All right. So we have Miguel Almiron, the name on everyone's lips recently. Especially... No, I'm not going to go there. It's been said too many times. Miguel Almiron, Andres Pereira, which is an interesting one, and Eberici Eze. Rest of season, how do you rank these guys, Ryan?
This is a good group.
Really good, right?
Intriguing. Man, my personal favorite is Eze. Just because I don't know if you can trust Pereira to keep this up rest of season. Pereira in the last couple weeks, bar this last game week before the World Cup, was putting up ridiculous numbers. If I knew that if I had a decent amount of faith that he could keep that up, he would be number 1 with a bullet. But I don't know if he can, especially if Mitro continues to have a knock. You kind of saw what that did to him and Willian this past game week, where they both put up some stinkers.
Yeah.
Because the key passes just aren't there if you can't get that fleshy Serbian forehead on the end of them. So and Eze has just kind of been the fantasy savior for Palace in recent weeks. He just keeps producing when everybody else is tanking. So I think Eze will get a nice little rest and just crack on. Almiron, I mean, you got to give it to him. He keeps producing, but it's going to come to an end at some point. And with around 5 ghost points, it's just he's going to have a fair amount of weeks where he drops 5 to 6. And I don't know if many of these other two will have many of those types of weeks. So I'm going to be a little bit unorthodox and say Eze, Pereira, Almiron.
Interesting. Okay, this is literally why I asked this particular question, because Almiron is the one to me that I feel like we really need to talk about from a metrics standpoint. So, Robbie, what are your thoughts on these three?
Yeah, well, I included Almiron in my hot or cold article. Was it a couple of weeks back? And just sort of went in a little bit on, his underperformance of XG historically, which was like at about 0.6 or something. And at the moment, I think at the time of writing, I think he was at 1.6 or something overperforming.
Yeah,
It's just a crazy difference.
That's a lot.
And it's clearly unsustainable. But it's sort of like, well, I don't know. Maybe he's an average finisher now. Now he's got confidence and he's playing on that right side, cutting in, just pinging off shots with his left foot. I don't know. It's really, really difficult one to quantify, especially with how well Newcastle are playing just generally. But with ASM back, is he the big man? As he has been, rescuing Newcastle every game. So it's a really difficult one with him. I have no idea. But it's interesting you pick out those 3 players as well, because if you look at their, again, going back to the expected stats, the expected points per 90, Eze's at 10.3, Almiron 9.9, and Pereira's on 10.1. So like they're just all much of a muchness, but Almiron's just absolutely smashed it, especially recently. And to be fair, Pereira has as well. Just
sure.
Fulham had a really nice run of fixtures, and they just, he was just supplying Mitro so well. So I think Eze is more likely to be the one who keeps it up consistently. So again, I'm with Ryan. I sort of trust like Vieira in that team and his role in that team. Whereas with Pereira, I mean, Wilson coming back, and Willian, does he lose out on some set pieces, which is basically the route to all his points with the key passes? And Almiron, can he, realistically, can he keep that up? And so I'll go Eze, and I'll still go Almiron ahead of Pereira though.
That's
interesting.
interesting.
He's been playing well enough.
Okay, I feel like for me there are several narratives at play here, right? So with Almiron, we've sort of been talking about regression to the mean, right? Regression to the norm. You don't normally keep this up. Like the only player who really keeps this type of thing up, overperforming XG so much, was Jamie Vardy in that 1 year. Remember? Yeah, and so it doesn't happen that often, and so I think we're right to be a little bit skeptical. At least I hope we are. And then with Pereira, of course, people talk about the easy run of form or the run of fixtures in the beginning, and then how it's going to get harder. Then with Eze, though, my concern is this team sucks.
Is that recency bias, Joe?
Well, it's like Ryan was saying, like we were all so excited for this, brilliant run where they were all these players were supposed to shine for us and like really reward us for holding on to them. And the exact opposite has happened.
To be fair, Eze has. I mean, aside from the last game week, he's basically still putting up those numbers. So He's been, and him and Elise have been, that sort of shining light, if you will.
Yeah.
In the team. So yeah, I'm a believer still.
Yeah. Would you? Okay, so I would take that to mean that you would trade Almiron for either of these other guys.
I've got Almiron over Pereira, but yeah, I would for Eze. Yeah.
Okay. Ryan.
Yeah, I think you could probably get more for Almiron given the recent numbers and the hype. But yeah, if pressed, I would settle for that for sure.
Interesting. All right. Okay. Yeah, I like that. I like that grouping. It's an interesting one with just everything that's going on with those teams, and especially just with Newcastle's form being white hot as it is. I do worry a little bit about players coming back from injury and whether or not Almiron continues to see the amount of playtime that he currently is. I mean, I agree you can't bench him, but at the same time, does he maybe get pulled earlier? Does he not go full 90s as much? We've sort of grown accustomed to seeing him play like 60 minutes in years past. Remember?
Yeah, I mean
that's fair.
Yeah, he's not managed by Steve Bruce anymore, so
true.
I have more confidence.
All right. Let's move along to the next three. So 3 players that preseason you never, ever, ever would have thought you'd be hearing uttered in the same breath. And that, of course, is Bernardo Silva, Pascal Gross, and Alex Iwobi. Just incredible. So this is where we are at this point. Unfortunately, Bernardo Silva, we know what's happened with him, and well, actually we don't, but we know what his numbers look like, and they're not great. Pascal Gross, unfortunately, under De Zerbi has just really tailed off. So we're not quite sure what to make of that. I don't think yet, unless either of you, have a crystal ball, which I'd love to hear. And then Alex Iwobi, go figure. He's the player who continues to defy all expectation this season and has quietly become one of the best waiver wire pickups of the entire season for anybody, really. Potential league winner, I think, if people just have him as a midfielder 4 or whatever it is. So, Robbie, let's come back to you. These 3 guys, how do you rate them?
I'm just going to go with the obvious, to be honest. I'll take Bilva, then Gross, then Iwobi. I mean,
interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I know. Bernardo Silva's not, his form anyway hasn't been great. I mean, I think he's on 8.6 in the points per start in the last 6. So it's it's a bit. It's not great, is it? But yeah, and Gross, obviously, his role in the team is a difficult one. I mean, I didn't actually watch the match, but I think I saw the lineups and he was at right back. Is that right?
Did he actually play there though? Because I know sometimes the lineups.
Yeah, maybe not, but yeah, it was just like a yeah. So I just saw that and went, yeah. But I mean, to be honest, he literally put up a goose egg as well. I think he got was it minus half a point or something?
Yeah.
So yeah, but then he scored the other week as well. So I really don't know what to make of him, but I think he's got enough upside and that you sort of have to take him over Iwobi, because he's been all right, but the form more recently hasn't been that good. Again, his form is 6.3, so he's sort of settling into not getting any returns, which is basically just Everton in general at the moment. So I have more faith in Brighton than I do in Everton to actually get some attacking returns. So that's why I'd take him over him. And Bilva, there's just the ceiling there, playing for City, and I think I'd still want to bet on him to be better rest of the season.
I mean, I worry though. What do you make of Gross not even starting some matches?
I mean, that's what we're used to anyway, right? It's not
I suppose
from previous seasons.
with Potter,
it's not much different, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think Iwobi's that good that you're going to care too much about Gross starting, I don't know, 75%, 60% of games, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, that makes
If that
sense.
makes sense.
Okay, Ryan, what do you think?
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat. Iwobi's just more of a steady Eddie. I'd feel more confident him getting 7 to 8 if I needed it, as opposed to depending on Gross or Bilva. But just has a ceiling that's a lot lower than Bilva and Gross. Bilva to Gross debate is interesting. PPS is pretty similar. They've both been kind of boom or bust of late. Both have kind of changing roles this season. Both face rotation, so they're both kind of a nightmare to roster on their own. Bilva's got to be best, especially if you have a city stack. If they're separately and you don't, then it's kind of a coin flip with Gross. So I'll give Bilva the slight edge, but yeah, that one's pretty close.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I mean, I suppose I'm with you guys. I just thought, I mean, I don't know. Iwobi's that kind of dark horse flyer that if you truly believe in him, you know, maybe some people will get rewarded. I think the difference between the three of these for me is that, you know, Bernardo Silva, he has the capability of dropping you 15 to 25, and it is really not out of the realm of possibility of it happening consistently, you know. And when I say that, I mean like once every, you know, 3 to 4 weeks maybe. But still, right? Those are the kind of points that can win you matchups, that can win you game weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think my worry with him is his ghosts have dropped off a bit as well. So from last season. So it's a bit, you know, he's more reliant on those attacking returns. So I mean, you'd hope he'd get them with, you know, feeding Haaland, but it's I'm not as confident in him as I would have been last season.
Yeah, that makes sense. Looking into Iwobi's numbers, I think it's interesting just to mention the fact that, you know, he is only 33% reliant on goals, assists, and clean sheets. He's got a decent ghost point floor, which listeners, of course, is those are the points that are scored not from attacking returns, for especially from midfielders. So those are points that you're going to get from just doing other things on the pitch that can be duplicated and that can be done multiple times a match to hopefully, you know, tick up the box score.
Yeah. I mean, 6 ghost points per start. I'm not sure
it's not a world beater. No, sure.
I think he doesn't have that reliance because he doesn't score or assist much. I mean,
yeah,
he got a couple of returns early on, didn't he? But
okay, fair enough.
It can be a good problem to have.
All right, well, Pascal Gross is only at 7.2 ghost points per 90, and he's a 40% reliance on ghost points on goals, assists, and clean sheets for his score.
Yeah.
It's not much different.
No, it's not. It's still better though.
Is that how math works? Shit, I should have paid attention.
But yeah, I mean, you're right in the sense that he's going to be a more reliable starter at least. But yeah, I don't think it's enough for me to give up Gross for him.
I'm with you guys. I like playing devil's advocate on this one.
Do you have Gross in one of your teams, Joe?
I don't. I don't actually. No.
Oh, well.
But I was wondering if this was a what do I do with him?
No, it's funny.
I'm so frustrated.
But we've had this conversation with Gavin, right? Because it looked like he was an absolute genius for drafting Gross where he drafted him. He was really high on him going into the draft. I think he took him like an early 4th round, maybe. And I remember asking him maybe on a podcast, or I can't remember when it was, but I asked him, like, why did you go Gross there? It just seemed like it was a little bit early. And he was like, yeah, I'm just really high on him this year. And it came to fruition unfortunately up until Potter left.
Yeah. I was just going to check it because I was in that draft. So
that is pretty early.
5th round.
Oh, was it 5th? Okay, all right, 5th.
Yeah,
But there were other players who were, according to ADP, who were going a lot earlier than that. And Gross was expected to slip quite a ways, I think, still. And it was considered sort of a quote unquote reach for Gavin to have taken him there. And that's why it kind of drew my attention.
Yeah, I mean, when you have a look at the guys who are available, I mean, you had Gordon, Tielemans, Thiago, Perisic, Gundogan. Those are the guys who went straight afterwards. So, I mean,
I think I remember getting Eze around there.
Yeah, I mean, I actually took Eze that round in like early 5th round. So this was late 5th. So
yeah.
So you're almost like 5th, 6th round by that point. It's worth a punt, I reckon.
It's good value for Gross, especially the way he started the season. I hope he kicks on. I love him as a player. Obviously, Fantrax legend, Taga legend.
For sure.
Yeah. All right, let's move right along, boys. So we're going to deal with some more forwards. These ones, well, we'll talk through it. So Dominic Solanke, Genie's boy, we'll call him, Brian Mbomo, and one Gedesh, who has been incredible lately. Thank you, Ryan, for convincing me to pick him up. But the question is, does it continue?
I'm going to go ahead and take this one.
Do this.
Go for it.
I'm going to go Gedesh, number 1. Shocker.
Ooh.
Then I'm going to go Solanke. Then I'm going to go Mbomo. Gedesh, new league. Everybody's writing his obituary 2 months in. Absurd. I'll admit that he had obviously a few really down weeks, lost his spot. But he's such a good player that you knew he was going to come good at some point. So I'm glad you picked him back up, Joe. Passing the eye test, and with Lopetegui coming in, I wish that Gedesh wasn't going to the World Cup with Portugal, and he'd have the months to work with Lopetegui.
Yeah.
But still, Wolves are going to get better. They have to. There's nowhere to go but up. Plus, Lopetegui is a great coach, and like I said, he'll have a bit of time over the break to get him going. And yeah, Gedesh is one of those guys that has the opportunity to ghost with different set pieces. Plus, he can score a goal. So he's above and beyond the ceiling of these other two. Solanke did better, I'll admit, than I thought. Historically, he's always been goal dependent. That little stretch of Bournemouth was really impressive. But I think that's over. I'd rather depend on someone like Gedesh than Solanke dropping 19 or 2. And yeah, Mbomo, I think he'll benefit from the penalties with Toney leaving, but nothing else really. So maybe if Brentford get like I said, somebody decent to replace Toney, and like they form some sort of fruitful partnership or link up.
Yeah,
and that changes things. But as of today, yeah, I think Gedesh has the best potential upside second half of the season, given the circumstances.
That's fair. My question is only like in terms of your Solanke and Mbomo ranking there, would you have flipped those had Toney not had his debacle?
No, I don't think so. Okay. It just gets worse. Yeah, I think I still would have given the nod to Solanke, but it just makes it even more kind of egregious, the gap.
All right. Interesting. Robbie, let's hear it.
Well, I think you've convinced me, Ryan.
Oh, hey.
We're here for.
Initially I had been thinking Solanke and then Guedes and then Mbomo, but yeah, I was just re-looking at some of the numbers, and they're just like Solanke's massively overperforming his XGs, like on 6.8 expected points per 90 and 9.2 points per 90. So
oh wow,
I don't really.
He's been banging them in.
Yeah, exactly, and I think you're right in terms of that Bournemouth sort of hit of form just dwindling out a little bit, and I know obviously over the break they're planning on installing the new manager, aren't they? So who knows what will happen on that front. But I can't see him keeping it up. But then again, I probably have more faith in him as a decent finisher compared to Mbeumo, who's just never ever, well, I don't know his whole career to be fair, but overperformed his XG. So yeah, it's just and he doesn't ghost either. So, but I mean, Solanke's ghost of 4.3,
terrible
for start. Christ. So I mean, what do you do with all that?
Yeah, Solanke's over 50% reliant on goals and assists.
Yeah.
Standard.
So yeah, I mean, why not take the chance on Guedes being as good as Ryan tells us? Huh?
Oh gosh, put that on me.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I will. No,
I'll take it. We're all putting it on you. Yeah.
Yeah. The thing is, it's just quite a murky picture, especially once. I mean, I know Neto would probably be a bit while longer, but you got Adama, you got Potence, you got Neto coming back, and Jimenez will be. Yeah, I'm assuming will come in to play up top. Who knows? Maybe they bring Fabio Silva back from his loan. And that you got Ryan's favorite player Hwang. So
what a gem.
Yeah. So there's a lot of like moving parts, and it's just predicting the number of starts rest of the season, and what would you put it at, Ryan? Like 60%, something like that, or are you more bullish?
I think I'm a little bit more bullish. I think he's one of those guys that's so versatile that he'll find a slot for him. I mean, he could play as the main striker. He could play as a winger. He could even play in the hole. I've seen him play in the hole for Valencia a bit. I think given that versatility and the fact that he's, better than most of that front line, I just think he'll find a way to slot him in. So barring injury, I think he'll get the most starts out of all those players you mentioned.
Fair enough.
But I mean, it's going to depend on Lopetegui. Let's see.
Yeah.
Who's his cup of tea? He's Spanish. Maybe he has a soft spot for Adama. Although I think his time is basically up once Neto comes back. But we'll see.
Whose is Adama's?
Yeah.
His time is up? Okay. Interesting.
I think so. I mean, it's...
What's Lopetegui, like, what's his stance on your, hold up striker Hwang Costa type? Does he usually employ one of those, or can that role go to more of like a false nine or more of a mobile, run into the channels type forward?
Yeah, I think he's a bit more flexible in that. I just remember the old Sevilla teams. They're like Ben Yedder and some more kind of fluid strikers as opposed to a Diego Costa target man type. So I think he could play either way, and we'll see if they open up the January market to him. But I think he'll just try and get the best of whoever he has. So right now, I mean, I guess he might be tempted to go with a target man of Jimenez or Costa. But again, I wouldn't be surprised if at least for a few games he gives Guedes a shot as the main striker. But yeah, it's all in the air.
All right, I like it. That's another good one, another really good one, but not as good as this one in my opinion. Let's move on to some defenders. So Reece James, this is great. Whoever came up with this one, bravo. Reece James,
wasn't me.
Andrew Robertson,
me,
torturous.
Diogo Dalot, Reece James, Andrew Robertson, Diogo Dalot. My goodness. Okay. So, Robbie, let's come to you first on this one. Man, you've got a lot of question marks. You've got a lot of players struggling for form, some for fitness. And then you've got one who is the fantasy darling maybe of this entire season. Maybe Mitrovic aside.
Yeah.
So how do you rank them?
Well, going off my weekly ranks, I've got Robertson just ahead of James, and then Dalot just a bit below.
Interesting.
And, which is I guess it's that with it's like you say, it's such a difficult one because I mean, what's Reece James done this season? Not a lot. Chelsea have been a bit of a nightmare really, but he can explode any time. And Robertson feels like he was getting that form back the last few games, and yeah, I mean, well, enough said about Liverpool's form, the better, but unfortunately, but yeah, but Dallow's just every time he starts, he's like a ghost point king as well. He's whether it's actually quality in real life or not is another question, but
right,
he's just whipping in crosses and getting key passes and just doing everything. So I mean, his ghost points per start is one of the highest we have in the league. It's like 11 ghost points per start. So
amazing.
Which is exactly. It's like this, just like a cheat code basically. But
man,
but yeah,
one of my biggest draft day regrets right there.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, I took him in like the 8th or 9th round in one league. It's just silly, isn't it? So yeah, those are the kinds of things that win you leagues. But yeah, the reason I got Robbo top, I think, is more partly the form of Nunez as well. I think if Robbo can get involved like he has been and whipping crosses into Nunez, then there's that potential there for him to improve massively with the in terms of the his assists. I mean, Liverpool can't get any worse, like clean sheet wise, right? And
right,
defensively. So yeah, just I'd bet on him having more starts than James, and whether James might have a a slightly higher ceiling, and when he does start, but yeah, I think I'd just have him over him. Dallow's going to be consistent with the ghosts. I don't know. United are a bit of a basket case, aren't they? You just don't know what you're going to get for them. So, I mean, he seems to ghost well despite all of that, if you will. So, yeah, I'm just dropping him below. It's just I feel like his ceiling is just that bit lower, whereas his floor will probably be higher. So yeah, I mean, depends on what your squad needs, maybe, but yeah, I'll take Robbo, James, Dallo from.
Yeah, I mean, if you need defenders and you want an every week starter, I would not shame you for trading Reece James, even Reece James plus a sweetener for Dalot if you really needed somebody to start for you week in and week out, because you're not going to get that from Reece James.
Sure, but I think as soon as James starts a couple, like after the World Cup break, and he puts down some big scores, it's like you get much more than Dalot for him. It's just that, that's my thinking behind that.
No, I totally completely agree with that too. Ryan, Robbie, and I are probably a little bit biased here, but does it feel like Liverpool is turning the tide a little bit? Like, does it feel like maybe the defense is turning things around? I mean, can we start to trust Robertson again? Can we start to trust Van Dijk again?
Man, it's interesting because I haven't seen the last two. I didn't watch the last two Liverpool games. So yeah, I'd really be depending on you guys for the eye test there.
I'd still say no.
No.
Well, I'd say lucky. No from what I've seen, but you don't know what's going to happen after the World Cup. This is you could another month just to be like with the players and think about what's gone wrong and sort it out. But yeah, I don't think from what we've seen you can trust it.
Yeah,
like you said, you'd think that there's nowhere to go but up, given their history and what a bad first half of the season they had, and given the fact that most likely they'll have a pretty fit back line emerging from the World Cup, unless God forbid VVD or somebody picks up a knock in the tournament. So you got to think that they're going to get better. Based off of that logic, I picked up Trent kind of on a low, so I'm hoping that's the case. But man, this one is really, really tough and paper thin. You can make a legit argument for either 3 to go number 1. Yeah, I think you're right in the sense that it really depends on your team needs. James has the biggest ceiling. Robbo's kind of in between, and yeah, Delo will get you 10 basically every game, and the chance to get a bit more if they get clean sheets. So, oh god.
Well, if you follow your ghost point,
Yeah,
I know, but it's being torn by my also no Man United policy. So,
indeed.
That is wild. He is 3rd in the league behind Trippier and De Bruyne.
yeah,
Like,
that's crazy.
Delo, what are you doing?
Yeah, it's pretty wild. What's the latest on James's injury?
I think he nearly made the World Cup. I think.
Yeah.
So I think he'll.
You think he starts Boxing Day?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen anything to the contrary, but I guess we'll find out more.
Still going to be eased in, you would think.
Yeah, but we've got just over a month, haven't we? So
yeah,
I think
he'll be fit. Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, just think he won't have match fitness for a couple games.
Right.
Sure.
Right.
But, true.
God damn it! All right, I'll go James Robertson Delo, even though it's paper thin, and like I said, you can make an argument for any of them to be top.
Yeah, that's I like it. That's a really good one. So I think we're gonna be true to our word and not go super long, but I do want to ask you guys a couple more things. First of all, given this discussion we've just had, defenders on draft day next year, do they take a big hit based upon this year? You know how everybody, the big narrative was finally like, oh, defenders are finally getting the praise they deserve. Defenders are getting the recognition they deserve in the draft game. A lot of defenders go in 1st and 2nd round, and yeah, we all saw what happened.
I think they will, but I think there'll be value next year. I think it's all cyclical. I wouldn't be surprised if defenders get their, Empire Strikes Back moment next season. So I'm going to be looking to pick up the likes of probably Trent or any of those top defenders. Maybe now in like late 1st, early 2nd.
Yeah, Trent in the 2nd round would be tasty, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
What do you think, Robbie?
Yeah, it's a difficult one. I think we need to see how it plays out over the rest of the season. I mean, we just recently did a bit of work analysing the what was actually going on in terms of the why are the defenders scoring so badly in terms of like this season compared to last season. And it turns out it's mostly aerials for centre backs, but and goals as well. But and the so it's a bit of a sort of a murky picture, really. But I'm not. I think a lot of that could potentially be the teams that we've had come up are let's say not Burnley and aren't and like ball playing teams like Fulham and so it's a difficult one in that sense, but you're right in the sense that a lot of the big name ones haven't performed. So Cancelo started off okay, he's tailed off. Trent, less said about that, the better. Robertson as well. I mean the only one who's really gone crazy is Trippier, who's just been amazing. So it's and obviously you're only looking round end of round 3, start of round 4 for him in most drafts. So I think I want to see how it ends up playing out towards the end of the season before making that decision, if you will. But certainly the draft where I took Robertson in the 2nd round is really not didn't go well.
So far.
Yes, so far.
Do you still have him?
I do, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
right.
You couldn't have traded him out for anything useful, could you?
No.
Yeah.
All right, Robbie, one more. Rank these 4. World Cup Group B. How does it end up?
Oh dear. Okay, so it's an interesting
Cue the
one.
Greenwood.
Yeah, well, I have to. Well, my dad's actually Welsh, so that'll be
Oh,
an
yeah, that's
interesting
right.
one. So,
Where's loyalties? Wales?
oh, he's Welsh. Yeah,
Yeah.
He grew up in Wales, so he's
Proper Welsh.
Yeah. Whereas, although I spent a lot of my early life in India and Canada, I'm grown up in England, so I'm English, and that's who I'll be supporting.
Sure.
But yeah, so hopefully I'll go England, Wales, Iran,
Wow.
USA.
Jesus.
wow.
You're
No,
really tempting me to go US top.
No.
Just for the bands.
No,
Yeah,
no.
no. I mean, no. Okay, what do I think? I don't know. I haven't seen enough of the States to really, know what you guys were about. To be honest, aside from old Christian not playing much at Chelsea, but
Yeah.
and our boy Brendan Harrison, obviously Genie's boy. Sorry,
Genie's boy. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, you'll know much more about that than me. I don't really feel too qualified to answer that one, but yeah, Wales, with Bale, with a few Championship guys and a few low level Prem guys. I mean, they can be more solid than you think. So
Yeah, got a lot of speed.
Yeah, so I absolutely know nothing about Iran. So let's say they come last, toss up between. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, England should go through, but
they should.
Yeah, we'll see about that.
They'll go through. I mean, that's not even a question. They'll obviously go through. The question is, do they get first? And I think they do.
Yeah, I think so too. I think England, USA, Wales, Iran. If Kirosh and the turmoil going on in Iran wasn't happening, I would be very tempted to go Iran 3, Wales 4. But
interesting.
But yeah, I think it's probably going to go that way.
Man,
Wales is going to come down to their first game. If they can get a result against Iran, that would just,
Well, England are playing.
No, they
Iran
play the
first,
USA. They play.
Oh,
the USA.
I mean, sorry, yeah. I mean,
in that game, yeah.
Yeah, that game is going to be huge for Wales, I think.
Yeah,
if they win, every team. If not, they're screwed.
Yeah, I think if every team beats Iran, then it makes it that bit tighter and more interesting, doesn't it?
Oh man! All right, one last thing. Who is your World Cup dark horse?
Netherlands.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, I think they have a great team on paper. I think Van Gaal has an interesting system that they'll just be really tough to play against. The only thing I'm kind of worried about is where the goal's going to come from, because they don't really have a proper number 9. They're going to be depending, I think, on Depay and some others for that. But yeah, I think they've got the ability to crack on. Plus, they have a pretty easy group, so they'll get out of the group. And then they'll be. Nobody's going to want to face them in the knockouts. That's for sure.
Robbie.
Mm-hmm. Oh man, I've really not looked into this enough, have I? It's difficult because I think the group that I quite like the look of clearly it appears the group of death, if you will, is the Group E with Germany, Spain, and Japan, Costa Rica. Because Costa Rica aren't mugs, they'll just low block and try and sort of sneak one out. So it's not an easy game. And Japan obviously have all these crazy little forwards like Mitoma and Minamino and the other guys. But so yeah, that'll be an interesting one. But I think a lot of people will be writing off Germany and Spain to an extent, just purely because they don't really have proper strikers anymore. So they just build on a sort of possession game and really sort of be quite solid defensively through that route. But I think if they can, as we saw in the Euros with Spain, if they can just keep things solid and nick a goal here and there, they could be dangerous. But yeah, I think Germany, everyone's writing off. So I think they could potentially be better than. I don't expect them to win it, but I think they could maybe do a bit better than people might expect.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just gonna say, unfortunately, it's sort of a disingenuous question because I don't think this is much of a dark horse here at all. I think you're gonna see
It's very top heavy.
Oh yes, I think you're gonna see somebody like Brazil, Argentina, France, maybe like a Belgium take it. But yeah, it's gonna be one of these teams that's just a superstar squad through and through.
Yeah. Some of them are just stacked, aren't they? I mean, you look at the Brazil squad.
Oh, it's insane. It's absolutely
ridiculous.
insane.
I mean, they left Bobby. Like, what's going on?
Yeah,
Where are they going to get the goals?
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, I mean, he's been banging them in this year, hasn't he?
Exactly. Yeah.
That's weird that they would do that.
Yeah.
No, they know him so well, too. It's just really odd.
Right.
I'm quite looking forward to seeing Uruguay as well. Just that, combo of Nunez and Suarez and just like crazy guys, like
they're always
flying into challenges and, like really slow centre backs that just like know the dark arts and just basically just spend the whole time in the centre back.
I've been playing for 20 years and they're they're all just.
Because I mean, how old is Godin now? Does Godin still start? I mean, it's one of those.
I don't think their 11's changed in like 20 years.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, they're always good value anyway.
Yeah, Godin's still in there. They took Cavani with them.
Wow.
I mean, so you're going to see Cavani sightings.
Yeah, he's been playing with Valencia. He's been decent.
Valencia, was it?
Yeah, he went to Valencia.
That went straight over my head.
Amazing. All right, boys, let's close her down. Robbie, appreciate you staying up with us today.
Oh, no problem, man. Yeah, glad to be here and looking forward to a bit of a break and just actually watching some football.
Absolutely. Yeah. It was a good time. Ryan, congrats, man.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Congrats, mate. Thanks to say that at the start.
And if I had the Greenwood, I would play it, but let's go USA. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
Let's have it.
Honestly, I'll just say this. Please just prove me wrong. Like, I know. The last international break was so hard. And anyway, we're still going to be rooting for the boys. But I got a soft spot for England too, so it's kind of hard. Anyway, enjoy your World Cup, listeners. It's been a blast. Thanks for joining us on a little bit of fantasy football talk. And now we'll leave you to go ahead and just dive headfirst into the World Cup. Remember that we do have our Perfect 11 game that is going on with Draft Society. You can win yourself a nice 2022 FIFA World Cup kit of your choosing, and it's free to play. You'll see all the names of all the draft community members on there. You'll be competing against a lot of people that you know and that you see on Twitter, so that should be a good time. Anyway, join it up. We love you guys. Community are the best. We'll talk to everyone soon. Until next time, KPC out. Cheers.